This is News at 8.
Now coming up in the bulletin, Chiefs want Accra mayor sacked over claims he is corrupt and running a one-man show. Delegation from China arrives in the country to work with government on the repatriation of their nationals engaged in illegal mining. Floods ravage communities in Sekondi, Takrady. Supreme Court adjourns hearing of election petition to June 24 to await outcome of pink sheet audit by KPMG. And think tanks at PERC Forum unconvinced about requests for tariff increases by ECG and Graco. We also have business, sports, showbiz, and international news all coming up in the next 60 minutes.
With Israel Live.
In our very first story, some divisional chiefs of the Gas State are seeking the removal of Accra Mayor Alfred van der Poel. The chiefs who converged at the palace of the Gamanche here in Accra accused the mayor of corruption and running affairs without due regard to them. He has, however, refuted the claims.
The group, consisting of all but two of the divisional chiefs in the Gas States, wants President Mahama not to reconsider Dr. Alfred van der Poel as Accra mayor.
Traditional leaders say no kungba mena. Ameka chon DC alo mayor kenibiano na ke government you. Ye wa gamane mi ye wo mayor ni obi ene ni ji Dr. Alfred van der Poel. Efi ami ake game chuni e batano kenklen afi edwe beni woche Tamale yo wala mi e batano kenklen afi edwe wona no kono onupa epiyete ngo akele gbasani ko ye ikeneke e na pe ake game ya afi ka ba je sisi aduonma ni asuo odada no ka fama asuo odada no ka asuo odada no mayor ni tano le jimoni eke government esla ni be batashin e ja ke mandie na afi oni ye ekucho mi nke man e batashin ni ko e batano afi edwe ehu mayor bako odada chonshidan.
But the AMA's chairman in charge of environmental issues, Philip Lamte, who spoke on behalf of the mayor, is challenging the chief's claims.
Let me tell you, when they say we're talking about chiefs in Accra, we have 7 clients in Accra, that are 7 chiefs. All the chiefs whom were supporting the mayor of Accra that day are chiefs who have no disputes or have no quarrels with their people. All the other ones that you see here, we have more than one chiefs fighting over a party wants to. And if the mayor moves out to decide to support one person, then it becomes a problem. The chief is supporting A and is leaving me. So he cannot go and support any of them. And that's the problem. If you don't have any problem with your stool, he can come to you and then ask you the way forward. What should we do? Do you need any assistance? And then we go on. Payment of the chief's allowance, as they are saying, it is not the mayor who pays, it is the General Assembly who makes the decision, headed by the presiding member. They should have asked him whether he has even called a meeting on that. That let's come and sit down and see whether we can talk about the allowances of the chiefs. We have to do this before forwarding it to the mayor to implement it. We have not done that. And they are not pushing it to the mayor that the mayor is paying the chiefs 1 million and he's taking for 50 million.
He also dismissed allegations of corruption against the mayor, saying they are without basis.
Deputy Minister for Information and Media Relations, Murtala Mohammed, says a delegation from China is in the country to screen and help government repatriate their nationals found engaged in illegal mining. At the news briefing in Accra, he asked mining companies who are alleging that the task force destroyed and looted their equipment to formalize their complaint or hold their peace.
Murtala Mohammed said government is worried media reports suggest the interministerial task force set up to crack down on Galamsey activities is targeting only Chinese nationals.
This delegation is in town. They were having meetings with the Minister of Foreign Affairs and as well the immigration officers to determine the possible, if you like, repatriation of the Chinese residents. Let us also say that the work of the Interministerial Task Force is not targeting Chinese. In fact, their responsibility is to target all those who are engaged in illegal mining. In fact, 6 Russians have been arrested. So it tells you that it is not only Chinese. Because if you limit it to only one nationals, that can be injurious, if you like, to our relations with those nationals.
He refuted recent claims by one of the companies targeted in the operations of the task force, Hansol Mining, insisting the company is not registered.
Checks at the Minerals Commission is indicative that that company is not registered as a mining company. So it baffles us to hear that they have lost equipment and that some of their employees are affected, because if per the registration that is available at the mining company, you are not supposed to operate because you are supposed to provide only mining services. But it is important to state that not a single complaint has been made to the Interministerial Task Force of these allegations. In fact, the task force hears these allegations through the airwaves. So it is appropriate that if you have evidence of your property being taken, or your if you like, your machines bent or virtually looted, I think that it should be appropriate you volunteer or you report to the appropriate body.
On the investigations in the recent market fires, he said the American NASA investigators are currently working with interim reports supplied by their local counterparts.
That interim reports with regards to the investigation commenced into this issue by security agencies in this country, in fact, has been submitted to the team that came from the United States of America. They are not coming to do exclusively different work. They are coming to collaborate with our security agencies. They are coming from the national security or the homeland security of the United States, and they are coming from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Explosive and Firearms, Bureau of the National Security of the United States of America. 3 of them arrived. They had briefings yesterday, and the other members are coming. In fact, the 3 includes 2 gentlemen and 1 lady.
He mentioned the 2 million cedi fund set up for all fire victims will be provided by government, but asked corporate institutions and agencies to support with donations.
The Deputy National Security Representative at the Tamale Port, together with some 3 officers of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, have been arrested for their involvement in an alleged attempt to evade payment of import duty. Deputy Information and Media Relations Minister Murtala Mohammed told journalists at a media briefing at the Flagstaff House the 4 officials failed to appropriately examine some 5 containers loaded by a task force at the port. The task force set up by the President has the mandate to block all revenue leakages in the country.
This task force actually worked undercover, and the chairman of that particular task force is the Chief of Staff himself. I am pleased to announce that there have been some arrests made. We thought that we didn't need to just make it public because they were doing a lot of work, but only to say that they have apprehended 2 trucks. In fact, just yesterday, 2 trucks were apprehended of alcohol that were supposed to be going to Togo. Unfortunately, they offloaded them in Ghana, and the clearing agent and the owner, in fact some owners who are Indians, were actually arrested as I talk to you. The custom officers engaged in it have been identified, but they would have to inform their superiors first before they can effect the arrest. 3 days ago, 5 containers were also offloaded, and the goods were, sometimes before you offload, there's something they call the premise of examination. And when they are doing this premise of examination, when they send them there, it ought to be examined before you can offload them. And in the examination, custom officers are supposed to be there. The national security is supposed to be there. I think immigration officers are supposed to be there. Unfortunately, in this case, none of them was around. And the people, the custom officers and those who offloaded them claimed that they sent them to the premise of examination. As a result of that, the national security deputy rep at the port has been arrested.
Meanwhile, the Center for Freedom and Accuracy says rot complicity and systemic corruption at the Tamale Port alone is set to cost the nation $100 million in tax revenue every month. It says undercover investigations in partnership with Tiger Eye private investigators have revealed a trend where tons of containers of imported goods are made to escape the tax net under the watch of officials of the port. The investigations also revealed a disturbing practice where importers falsify the contents of their containers to evade taxes. Andy Awuni, Executive Director of the Center for Freedom and Accuracy, told journalists 2 retired service officials whose names are being withheld are at the center of the practice. He said his outfit has exclusive documentation and videos of the 2 ex-servicemen conniving with port officials to falsify documentation as well as help importers to bypass the system between 2012 and 2013. He mentioned, for instance, how the officials have managed to let importers pay as little as 200 cedis so as to avoid having their containers scanned. Mr. Awuni described the ports as one of the institutions that bring a lot of shame and disgrace to the nation. In other stories, some pregnant women and other emergency cases at the Ridge Hospital here in Accra are receiving care on the verandas and other places outside the wards due to congestion at the facility. The situation, which has persisted for years, is said to have worsened with the introduction of the National Health Insurance Scheme. The medical director, Dr. Emmanuel Obing-Apore, is however hopeful the upgrading of the hospital would end the patient's nightmare. We are speaking to Joy News' Matilda Nyakwan Dennis.
A walk in the yard of the Ridge Hospital, situated in the heart of Accra, might give the wrong impression that all is well within its premises. The hospital has almost all the modern emergency units required in a regional hospital. The problem is therefore not so much about the unavailability of facilities or specialized units, but the increasing number of patients using limited facilities and resources. In the hospital's 2012 annual performance review report, the challenges stated include a limited space and infrastructure, as well as obsolete, inadequate and broken down equipment. This is evident when you walk down the corridors between the wards and see the spaces that were supposed to be free to aid ventilation occupied by patients.
With the advent of health insurance, we started about 2005. OPD numbers have tripled. It means that if you are going by conservative figures, if a tenth of all those who come to the OPD have to admit that you need more beds. The hospital can at maximum have about say 191, 2, not about 10, but about 201 beds at any time in time, which means it's not enough for the patients. Last year, we had about the second highest also where people delivered, about 11,300 deliveries. The space has become a problem. It's sad to know that sometimes the only reason why we cannot admit patients is that there's no extra bed. So it means that the hospital needed to be expanded. Apart from that, the hospital, because of the nature and because of the age of the infrastructure.
Even more worrying are pregnant women and other emergency cases receiving drips on verandas. This temporary shelter is expected to be completed within 2 months to cater for pregnant women, pending the expansion of the hospital. The upgrade, which was captured in the 2013 budget, will add 600 beds within the new structures.
It's going to give almost all the range of services that you can think of. Obs and gynae, pediatrics, surgery, medicine, ophthalmology, ENT, neurosurgery, what have you. But I also think that hospitals are not built for only service. They're also built for teaching and research. And the whole idea is that in Ghana, the number of medical schools are expanding. There are a lot of people, last time they got so many ATs. Most people could not, the intake was limited because what are the hospitals to teach them? Let's take them in the house officers. Now, the rule is that you do about 1 year in the teaching hospitals, and then the other year, the second you do it in the regional hospital or a district hospital where they have specialists. We can take more than maybe about 40.
Dr. Obing-Apore also adds the new plan includes a ramp for patients with wheelchairs, as well as a solar energy system as a backup for electricity. The project is expected to be completed in 36 months.
Well, you're watching the Primetime News Bulletin here on the Joy News channel on Multi TV. We're taking a break. Before we do that, though, I'm quickly going to go to the issue we're discussing today on social media. Like I told you, we're going to be engaging you some more. And there's been a noticeable increase in the number of likes we have on our page. As you can see, we have like 21,142 likes right now, and 1,837 people are talking about us right now. So get on to Facebook, and the issue we're discussing, the ECG and the utility companies are asking for tariff adjustments to cover costs and provide better services to consumers. How much do you propose they are giving, and why? We're making you the PRC, essentially. You tell us how much you think they deserve. We'll be taking your comments much later on. So that story is going to come a little later in the bulletin. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Residents in the Western region are still counting their losses following a heavy downpour that left several households and communities flooded. The rain began on Wednesday evening and continued till 10 a.m. on Thursday.
The rains that poured throughout the night destroyed several properties in communities in Sekendi, Aniji, Takrade, Esaman and Nkontompo. The Sekendi branch of the Ghana Commercial Bank, the Ahantaman Rural Bank, the main yard of the Sekendi prisons, and the Opportunities Industrialization Center were also flooded. At the time Joy News visited these communities, people were still salvaging their belongings. The victims are calling for the Sekendi Takrade Metro Assembly and the National Disaster Management Organization to intervene. Acting Western Regional NADMO Coordinator Teresa Martin Mensah disclosed the officials were already on the ground to assess the situation and offer some relief items to the affected victims.
We always talk to people about flooding, and all the things we are seeing today is not about God giving us the rain, but the attributes that we are seeing, some of them is part of man.
Schools and commercial activities within the metropolis were disrupted as a result of the floods. William Benjamin Peters report for Joy News.
African women have been challenged to come up with strategies that will help address the numerous challenges faced by women on the continent. The challenge was thrown to them at the opening of the 2013 African Women in Leadership Conference, currently underway in Akwa Ibom State in Nigeria, from where Nia Krufismat Awe sent this report.
This year's conference, under the theme African Women of Worth, is being attended by some 500 delegates from Liberia, Nigeria, Ghana, Gambia, Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea and Ethiopia. Founder and CEO of the African Women in Leadership Organization, AULO, Elisha Atai, explains the reason for the choice of the conference theme.
This year's theme of our conference is the African Women of Worth. The core belief driving this African Women in Leadership Organization is that the true worth of a person ought to be measured more by what is given away freely, rather than what a person has, receives, or keeps. We also believe that the purpose of every life is to help others and contribute our culture to society.
Speaking at the opening ceremony of the conference, the Senator for Akwa Ibom South, Helen Iswene, said the modern African woman is seeking self-transformation and an opportunity to contribute her quota to development, adding that the African woman of worth must also challenge the status quo.
The African woman of worth must be ambitious and forward-looking. We must not be satisfied with the status quo, but also she must have time to mentor the younger generation. There has to be a process of handing over the batons. While striving for financial independence, which is very, very important, the harmony of her home and the proper upbringing of her children must not be compromised. Because if we lose the younger generation, then we've lost everything.
10 African women in executive positions will be speaking on different topics during the 3-day conference. The speakers include Joel Howard-Taylor, wife of former Liberian President Charles Taylor, Comfort Okran, CEO of Legacy and Legacy Ghana, Ghanaian fashion designer Rene Q. Boateng, and Gloria Bachman-Jansen, a senior managing partner at Planet Ghana. Some participants shared the expectations of the conference with Joy News.
One thing we want us women of Africa to know is that we need to stand together when it comes to politics, because the women, we are in majority. Even if you are my son, I can easily convince you to vote for somebody. We, the women, we got the numbers, but most often we are divided by the men. So as we have come here together as women of Africa, we want to stand together at the end of this conference, even if somebody is running a campaign in Ghana or Nigeria, wherever it may be, that we will come from other countries around Africa to put arms around that person to make them what really they want to be.
We can use the conference as a roadmap, as foundations for women to use as a strength to stand in Africa at all walks of life, to be able to give each other strength by networking across the continents of Africa, to see how we strategize in-house to strengthen each other.
From Uyo in the Akwa Ibom state of Nigeria, I'm Nia Krofis Matabe for Joy News.
The Supreme Court this afternoon was forced to adjourn sitting to the 24th of June as it awaits a final report of audited pink sheets by auditing firm KPMG. The judges ordered for the auditing of the exhibits after the respondents alleged pink sheets filed by the petitioners fall below what they had stated in court. The registrar this afternoon told the court officials from KPMG had pleaded for more time to enable them finish their work. Let's get into the Supreme Court.
And they were saying, as at now, they can't give us specific date or day that they will finish. We should give them a couple of days or a week and some days for them to finish their work.
A week and some days or some days and
a week and additional days. That's what they want us. They need at least 1 week and some few days.
Just recall that yesterday, the voters register and the witness was supposed to bring their copies today. So maybe we can clear that aspect of the cross-examination, and then we finish for the day.
The firm KPMG has given indication, meanwhile, that it will meet the deadline set by the Supreme Court. Senior partner KPMG, Joseph Wimful, however, says the firm is not under pressure to satisfy the court's demands.
It might surprise you that when we realized the sensitivity of it, we also knew we had to, contribute to the well-being of everyone. We also had to be sensitive about the critical nature of the issue. So yes, it would mean, maybe putting more people on it or increasing the teams doing it and so on in order to, cut down on the time. But we do not allow such pressures or any pressure whatsoever to, hamper our work. I mean, we know what we are supposed to do. We know that we should apply a lot of diligence. We know that we have to be very accurate. We know that we have to, adhere to the laid down principles and processes and procedures that we've agreed with all parties concerned. We know all that. So definitely, we're not going to allow any pressure to distort our work. So definitely, whatever is done and whatever time within which we do that work is going to be within the accuracy limits that we've set ourselves, and is going to be well done. So it doesn't matter the period that we have indicated, agreed, or been requested to adhere to. we believe that we'll be able to meet those challenges.
Now, going to school for most children will mean a bus or a car ride or simply going by foot. A few, however, will also go by bicycle, which happens to be the dominant mode of transport for school children in Tamale in the northern region. Our News Generation crew has been exploring the phenomenon of school-going cyclists in a town where riding to school is a ride into a promising future.
Friends who don't have bike, how really do they cope? How?
Sometimes I look at them, I have pity on them, and usually sometimes they also beg widows who have the bicycle, please can you help me so that if I get here I'll also walk or something. Or sometimes they can stand at the roadside begging for a lift from people or stuff, and those kind of things is not pure, it's not good to see in the eye, it doesn't favor at all.
Mba Orlando Adam stays at Bywater in Tamale. His bicycle is 19 years old, a year older than him. It has been in the family all this time.
I inherited this bicycle. My senior brother used it. He has gone to SS. Now I'm the junior one, so I inherited it from him. So I have to also use it so I can also transport myself to school. It can be close to like 19 years now.
He intends to hand it over to his younger brother after completing school.
I also have a junior sibling, so I can also give the bicycle to them. So they can also use it to go to school easy.
Although he loves riding his bike, he sometimes feels unsafe on the streets of Tamale. For many children, riding a bike has become a way of life rather than just a means of transport.
My bike is very fast and it's nice. Everyone admires my bike every day. Whenever I come to school, they say, how costly is my bike? I will tell them that it's more than 1 million, and they are saying that they may also get.
Those who don't have a bike feel left out and at a disadvantage. If you don't get a lift, how do you get home?
I have to walk.
And how long does it take you in getting home?
It will take me 1.5 hours.
But what about those in surrounding villages? I'm at Kwasunando in the Yendi district of the northern region, and residents from here to Tamale tell me it is a punishment not to buy a bicycle for your child. Most children say their parents prefer buying bicycles for them because it turns out to be cheaper.
Up next, we bring you the business news.
Joy News Business is brought to you in association.
Some clauses in the master facility of a $3 billion loan between Ghana and the China Development Bank have been cited for the delay in the disbursement of the funds. Government, as a result, is seeking parliamentary approval to amend the agreement. Though details of the paper placed before the House today was not made public, Joy News managed to glean portions of its contents.
The confidential document from the Office of the President and signed by the Secretary to the Cabinet, Alhaji Adam Sadiq, stated the amendment has been necessitated by the operational challenges the Ministry of Finance is experiencing in implementing the loan under the original terms of the agreement. The amount of debt service that the Government of Ghana was required to transfer into the collection account was one of the major reasons for the request for the amendment. The amendment is expected to minimize the government's obligations with regard to the money that will be transferred into the collection account. Under the previous five-party agreement, Bank of Ghana was required to transfer 70% of the commercial invoice value of each crude oil lifting into the collection account and establish a letter of credit in the same amount to the central bank as surety for the transfer amount. The amendment will, however, limit the amount to be transferred into the collection account after each lifting. It will also establish the letter of credit to cover the same amount, which will be limited to the Government of Ghana's debt service obligation in each interest period, adjusted by the number of crude oil lifting in the same interest. The House is expected to start considering the amendment soon. Meanwhile, the House has adopted the report of the Finance Committee on the request for waiver of custom duties, VAT, and other taxes amounting to $7,413,611 on goods and services. This is in relation to the execution of a grant agreement between the Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA, and Ghana for the rehabilitation of the National Trunk Road N8.
Now, the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Henry Kofi Wampa, says the cedi's depreciation should be over in the next 2 months. The local currency has been experiencing a free fall in the past months, resulting in a sharp decline in its value against the dollar. Speaking at the launch of the 2013 banking survey results, the governor said some inflows that are coming in, together with new monetary measures, should help halt the cedi's free fall soon. Now, some policy think tanks have expressed support for the VRA's request for a tariff increase. They have, however, questioned similar requests by GRECO and the Electricity Company of Ghana, arguing that the two have not provided the quality service warranting the 214% increase they are seeking. The think tanks made the remarks at a meeting with the utility companies under the auspices of the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission.
Planning and Business Development at VRA, Kofi Ellis, was the first to present VRA's justification of the tariff increment.
VRA now buys a cargo of crude every 14 days. And a cargo of crude is made up of 450,000 barrels. And every 14 days, we need 450,000 barrels. And that, right now, it's almost $50 million every 14 days.
The meeting then had submissions by ECG and GRIDCO.
Depreciation and other items also form about 28%. Tax expense 6%. Then a return on asset base is about 7%. Now we have an asset base of about 4 billion Ghana cedis. Now what it means is that year on year we need to make some meaningful return in order to even replace these assets. Historically, we've seen a return of negative, in excess of negative 2%. Now, this, by our proposal, we want this straightened up to at least a positive number. We asking for about 7%.
Their submissions generated a lot of questions from the stakeholders who also had queries about the calculation of their assets.
This situation is a total mess. I'm sorry. You can't do things that way. And you accept it quietly. No, this is too late. This is the past. It should not happen. Because somebody, after you've come to us, we backed you, and then you've got your price, then somebody else takes a decision which makes the price that you've been giving unviable. And the public doesn't know. And we create debts. So, I'm sorry. Our education cannot be complete here. But what is there stinks. This is not good enough for this country.
Let's look at the figures. Do they reflect the true figures that ECG is operating with? If indeed the asset base was undervalued, what should be the true asset base? They are asking 7% returns on 4 billion Ghana cedis. And so if we know the true asset base, I believe 3% of that true asset base would have given them the money they need from these 4 billion. And for which reason the tariff they are asking for may not be justified.
The ECG tried to justify their claim.
Our challenge is that we have a lot of debts in our books. And in business ethics, you don't divulge so much information about your customers. But both private and government debts are in our books. For the government, the debts have been reduced substantially. Just last week, we had a credit note that through the clearinghouse was claiming that debt over 200 million Ghana cedis. So it's been reduced substantially. I want to appreciate that.
They were advised to ensure the money owed them by government is retrieved so it can be used to offset some of the debts they have incurred. The Parliamentary Select Committee on Energy earlier last week also disapproved ECG and GRIDCO's request for tariff increases.
All right, so this story is very much related to a question we're asking you on Facebook tonight, which is the ECG and the utility companies are asking for tariff adjustment to cover costs and provide better services to consumers. How much do you propose they are giving and why? And we'll be getting some of your comments. Obed Don AJ says, Joy News Power will not pay anything. They should continue taking their light, but will still survive mediocres. And then Tony Kwekuabing says they shouldn't even think of of increasing tariffs till they start offering better services to consumers. And so your comments are coming through. Keep your comments coming through. We'll read a few more before the end of the bulletin. But in other business stories, farmers in the central region are worried about the lack of storage facilities for this year's harvest now that the rainy season has begun. They fear a lot of farm produce will perish if plans are not made for adequate storage now.
Farmers in Abakrampa, Nyamfeku, Ekrofo and Asibu are especially worried because the rain so far point to a bumper harvest and would not want to endure another season where they would have to sell their produce cheap due to lack of storage.
And so you'll be able to be me a chobancy, Motona may feed na my ya. Since I weigh the me they come with Moato on Chamacaunala. By 1 week time and sound a butcher. And to say, baby, I'm motum, Medacom water, and Nalams of a camisca, and Luca, motum dacom water.
You soon go on Toba with Barry on Tamba, and you are Susutra, Miss Barry, Oba. You used to Sibia Santa Region Harm. You to me did man is your home. The inferior would too much don't show me by a bob way. Made by a baby and a term 2 months, say, it made the BC.
They also want government to consider acquiring machines to process their produce. Meanwhile, the rain in some instances has caused flooding of farms, a situation they believe can be resolved if drainage systems are constructed. It is the hope of the farmers that their situation would be remedied as soon as possible.
We have smart investment tips coming up next.
Was brought to Sports is brought to you in association with.
Let's talk some football. And the Disciplinary Committee of the Ghana Football Association has finally meted out punishment to the Premier League sides who were involved in last month's crowd violence that marked the Ghana Premier League. Asante Kotoko, Brekum Arsenals and Adriana Stars have all received heavy sanctions after the DC's hearing. Asante Kotoko would serve a 3-match home ban and pay a fine of 5,000 Ghana cedis after they were found guilty on 2 counts for acts of misconduct by the supporters. Supporters of Kotoko displayed unbridled acts of lawlessness during the Globe Premier League match against Midiema at the Barbera Sports Stadium on 8th May 2013. The Disciplinary Committee also has issued a 6-match home ban on Brekum Arsenal from using the Golden City Park after reviewing evidence which included reports of both the referee and match commissioner and video coverage which took place at the grounds during their Globe Premier League match with Asante Kotoko on 12 May 2013. Meanwhile, Adriana Stars have been handed a 2-match home ban from using the German Bedu Park for misconduct after reviewing evidence which included the match reports, the club's own testimony and video coverage of the match. Adriana Stars were found guilty for threatening the match officials with harm before the start of their match against Liberty Professionals on 12 May 2013. Now, Ghana's under-20 team would attempt to wrap their training in Switzerland with a silverware when they meet Brazil in the finals of the 2013 Velas Youth Cup on Saturday. The Satellites booked the place in the final after they beat Kosovo 5-4 on penalties in the semi-final. The Black Satellites were held 2-2 in regulation time after Francis Na opened the scoring on 7 minutes, but Vedat Bigri leveled in the 41st minute. The second half was very open and Ghana took advantage of a corner kick, which was headed in by Prince Abel Adiko in the 61st minute. Kosovo responded immediately and found the equalizing goal through Drillin Musaj in the 73rd minute. In the penalty shootout, the last missed shot by Kosovo gave victory to Ghana. Brazil beat African under-20 champions Egypt 1-0 at the same venue. Saturday's final will be a repeat of the 2009 FIFA Under-20 World Final, where Ghana won via penalties in Egypt. Ghana are preparing for the 2013 FIFA World Youth Championship in Turkey, which begins next week. The satellites will begin their campaign against France on 21 June in Istanbul.
All right, so we'll be paying close attention to everything that happens to the black satellites. That'll be all for sports tonight. My name is George Adi Jr. Israel, of course, will join us with Showbiz. You have a good night.
Sports was brought to you in association with
Our Milk. Smile. You've got Higo.
Now, stakeholders in the movie industry in Ghana and Nigeria have met to deliberate on how to enforce movie censorship laws, which will ensure that African movies meet international standards.
Movie pundits have complained that the African movie is difficult to market internationally because the producers are always in a hurry to make money and are not concerned about quality content. The stakeholders, who were made up of mainly Ghana and Nigeria's movie censorship boards, actors, movie producers, among others, say there has been much talk with less action, and so this meeting was to come up with measures that would ensure that the laws are enforced. Samuel Nyodoy Mensah is the president of the Ghana Actors Guild, and he calls on the censorship boards to start taking action to ensure international standards.
One thing that I've realized is that we talk a lot, but we don't do what we're supposed to do. Sometimes we come to meetings, we take decisions. Who to implement the decisions? There's nobody. Now that we have had this meeting and views have come out, I expect that the two boards must sit down and come up with something, just not on paper, but practical something.
A communique will be issued by the stakeholders by close of tomorrow.
Right, so that's it for Showbiz. Before we go, I'll go to some of your comments. The UTG and utility companies are asking for tariff adjustment to cover costs and provide better service to consumers. And we're asking you, how much do you propose they're giving and why? And then I get this very interesting comment. I think it's the most interesting comment of the evening for me. Raymond Kudenu says, I beg, they should stop calling my name consumer. And I'm just freaked out by that. And those are your comments. You can post some more comments, and I'm sure other Facebook users will go there and go and read them. But right now, we're having PM Express coming up next, and so we're crossing over to Nana and Sakwa, who's standing by in the studio to tell us what exactly it's coming up on PM Express tonight. If Nana and Sakwa is not ready, probably bring you some more of the comments. Okay, so Nana and Sakwa, good evening to you. What's coming up in PM Express tonight?
Well, good evening, Israel. We are looking at the increases in tariffs.
Okay.
Civil society is saying that, yes, by all means, the prices should go up. But the average now is 166, and they're saying no. So we are trying to find out what is the fair average. But the funny thing is, Israel, in the last 3 days, I haven't had light. Imagine if I was paying even 200 cedis a unit. How do I get the light to even pay my 200 cedis a unit? But we're here to discuss it. And it's going to be exciting.
It's interesting that you're taking about the same topic we were just asking our listeners about and our viewers about, sorry. And there are some people who are saying, not even, Dennis Dake, he is saying, not even a kobo. Gilbert Kwejo Jenfi says, we in BA enjoy electricity a bit better than others. So I suggest a 0.5% increase. Can you imagine? That's how much he's willing to give them. But I'm sure it will be an interesting discussion.
It should be. But the thing is, you need to get the electricity to pay for it. So if they don't supply it, it doesn't matter how much they increase it. How much are they going to recoup? to maintain the services that we get. But it's going to be exciting, Israel.
I can believe that. So that's coming up. PM Express is coming up right after the bulletin. That's it. Before we go a quick run through our top stories, Ghana Chiefs wants Accra mayor sacked over claims he is corrupt. A delegation from China has arrived in the country to work with governments on the repatriation of the nationals engaged in illegal mining. Floods have ravaged communities in Sekendi, Takrady. The Supreme